Welcome, everyone, to the PFF Fantasy Podcast. I'm Jon Macri, and I am joined, as always, by the great Nic Bodiford. We are heading into the fantasy football semifinals. Nick, the pressure continues to build toward a fantasy championship that we can hopefully get it done. Hopefully, we could give the people some answers this week and help sort lineups. But how you doing this week?
Good, John. How are you?
Doing pretty good, man. Trying to, again, set stressful lineups myself and hopefully, get a win because get one step closer. We only need to get 2 more wins on the year. It doesn't sound like much, but these are the hardest ones to get. So hopefully we can help the people through it and manage those lineups. But we're going to do our usual thing here. We'll go through our favorite QB streamers and defense special team streamers, wide receiver, cornerback matchups, man zone data, all that stuff, as well as some players picked out from Nate's Start Sit article. You can get access to all of that stuff on PFF.com with a PFF Plus subscription and along with like grades and everything like that. So let's get into it here. We're going to start with our QB streamers of the week, Nick, and who have you written about this week?
So first one up, Los Angeles Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford playing at the New York Jets. Jets defense, still talented players, but this unit has not been good since they fired head coach Robert Saleh in week 6. New York's pass defense ranks 14th in explosive pass plays allowed, 17th in open target rate, 20th in forced incompletion rate, 22nd in yards allowed per coverage snap, and 30th in EPA allowed per play. Meanwhile, Los Angeles Rams passing offense has been on fire. Their offense as a whole, since weeks 11 through 15, they rank top 10 in plays per drive, which we really like for fantasy purposes, gives everybody involved high volume usage. 7th in explosive pass play rate and touchdown drive, 3rd in success rate and EPA per play. Critically here, we do expect LA to sort of blow out the Jets. Los Angeles maintains a 52.9% pass play rate when winning by 3 or more points. So even if they jump out to an early lead, we can safely expect Matthew Stafford to continue slinging it. He ranks fourth in PFF passing grade, 3rd in big time throw rate, 1st in pass to 6 throwing rate, 6th in yards per pass play, 15th in completion rate, and 4th in average time to throw. I think he'll have a totally efficient day here. And I like him as a streaming QB1.
Nice. Yeah. I guess the one thing for me, like, I find that the Jets, like, at least their strength on defense is probably in their defensive line, right? Where the only thing is that I don't know if Quinnen Williams is going to play this week. Not that he's having like his, the best year of his career either, but he picked up a hamstring injury. So that probably helps things a little bit, because the one thing that they actually have been good at has been generating pressure this season. And Matthew Stafford has earned the worst passing grade under pressure. But if Quinnen Williams is out, then I do definitely feel a little bit better. I mean, obviously, look, we like the passing weapons that Stafford has as well. That definitely makes a big difference here with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. So yeah, no, I don't hate it. That was the one concern I had when I was looking at players this week, and Matthew Stafford kind of stood out there, just if the Jets defensive line is able to get pressure against him this week. But the Rams offensive line has been a little bit better as of late as well.
Totally fair. Yeah, they've been run blocking fairly well. Still needs improvement in the pass protection department.
Yeah, for sure. All right, who else do we got for QB streamers this week, Nick?
So Carolina Panthers quarterback Bryce Young hosting the Arizona Cardinals. So Bryce Young, he kind of came back to earth last week. I still think that he can play efficiently against this defense. I went rather in depth here last 3 weeks with the Arizona Cardinals pass defense. So they're 20th in EPA allowed per play, 29th in PFF coverage grade, 30th in explosive pass plays allowed rate, 32nd dead last in open target rate, 31st in forced incompletion rate, 26th in yards allowed per coverage snap. You get it. It's not a very good unit. Young, meanwhile, has played very well against the blitz, and for the defensive line, the pass rushing aspect here, Arizona blitzes at the 4th highest rate in the NFL over the last 3 weeks. They rank 9th in PFF pass rush grade, 10th in QB pressure rate. So they're doing a good job. But Bryce Young, meanwhile, 6th in big time throw rate against the blitz, 2nd in average depth of target, 1st in pass to sticks throwing rate, 1st in first downs gained first in batted passes, 0, second in sacks, in the good way, not the second most sacks. He's just playing very well on the move. He's not a Michael Vick type speedy guy, but he navigates the pocket well, and he's playing very well against the blitz. So this profiles as a matchup that specifically plays to Bryce Young's strengths.
Nice. Yeah. And I like Bryce Young this week, like you said. And I have a Carolina Panthers wide receiver we'll talk about in a little bit as well, that I like this week to just kind of build on that, but we'll save it for when we get there. So let's go to our wide receivers now, and we'll start with your wide receiver cornerback matchups that you're looking to target this week. Nick, who is at the top of the list for you?
Yeah, so first things first here. So Philadelphia Eagles, Devontae Smith facing Washington Commanders slot cornerback Noah Igbenegane or something like that. I think I've called him Ibogaine previously. But Philly, they're known to play games with the injury report. Like earlier this season, he said that Jalen Hurts, I think, had an ankle injury, and the reporter said, "You have him listed as rest." And he went, "Oh, yeah, I was talking about another guy." So we know that they'll kind of fudge the data here a little bit. On Wednesday's injury report, Saquon Barkley shows up as rest. We know he missed like a quarter and a half last week, and he was seen like rolling out his leg or something on the sideline. So clearly it's not rest. Now maybe they are resting him, but he's a little bit banged up. AJ Brown also listed as rest, but the injury that he appeared to suffer in game was a high ankle sprain. Now, high ankle sprains can be mild. Any injury can not be that bad, so he may be totally fine. But they also put him on there as rest, and we have reason to believe that maybe that isn't the case. Dallas Goedert is on injured reserve. Now, Devontae Smith also showed up on the injury report with back/rest. So we do need to monitor this. Maybe they're being more truth. I don't know how they make these decisions, where they're going to obfuscate and where they're going to tell the truth. But currently, I think that he's going to be the featured passing game weapon. We'll continue to monitor the injury reports, blah, blah, blah. But with Dallas Goedert out of the lineup, both A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith have simply been the focal points of this offense. Devontae Smith, he dealt with a multi-week hamstring. They eventually shut him down in weeks 12 and 13. Since returning in week 14, Devontae Smith, 11 targets, A.J. Brown, 14, are the only Philadelphia pass catchers to earn more than 3 first-read targets in that 2-game stretch. Notably, last week, Devontae Smith cracked 100 yards receiving for the first time this season. He lines up at a 46.7% plurality rate in the slot, so I think he's going to be able to kind of dust up Noah Igbenegane. I also think that he's going to take a meaningful amount of snaps against number 2 perimeter cornerback Mike Sainristil, who is having a fine year for a rookie, but he is still a rookie. He's still kind of, finding his footing in the NFL. There are some aspects to his game where he is figuring things out. Ranks 41st in yards allowed per coverage snap, 43rd in explosive pass plays allowed rate, 49th in targeted rate, grades out of this as the 17th best perimeter cornerback. He's, like I said, he's good, but he's figuring some stuff out. Meanwhile, Igbenegane ranks 24th in targeted rate, grading out as the 19th best player. And importantly, on the team level, Washington's slot coverage allows 0.041 EPA per play, 13th most among NFL teams. Devontae Smith, we know he is great. 3rd in PFF receiving grade, 22nd in target rate, 2nd in catch rate, 11th in yards per out run, 48th in ADOT, but he's doing decently after the catch, 4.5 yards, ties for 27th in explosive pass plays. Now, the data that I shared there is his injury-free data. So it's, weeks 1 through 9 and then 14 through 15. I think he's a wide receiver, borderline wide receiver 1/2 here.
Nice. Yeah, I think I highlighted both the Eagles wide receivers in the man zone report this week because Washington is one of those defenses that are like average in both man and zone coverage deployment this season. And both A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are like top 25 in fantasy points per route run against both coverage types. AJ Brown like leads the way versus all wide receivers against man coverage, but Devontae Smith is up there as well, and then they both dominate against zone. So these guys have been excellent all season. Let's go on to your next wide receiver here. You have Jaden Reed of the Green Bay Packers up next.
Yeah, so Jaden Reed, he's frustrated as of late because he's stuck in the 3 wide receiver sets, and Green Bay's been running the ball ad nauseum. Here's the thing: the New Orleans Saints cornerback core is about as bad as you can ever imagine, particularly new slot cornerback Ugo Amadi. After Marshawn Lattimore left, they brought Alontae Taylor out of slot coverage, put him on the defensive left. Kool-Aid McKinstry now exclusively on the defensive right, while Ugo Amadi mans the slot. Jaden Reed, he's got 12.6% wide left rate, 10.5% wide right rate. Might get a couple opportunities there on the perimeter against these guys, which is notable, especially for Alontae Taylor, because among 64 NFL perimeter cornerbacks with at least 250 perimeter coverage snaps, Alontae Taylor ranked dead last in PFF perimeter coverage grade, yards allowed per coverage snap, and explosive pass plays allowed rate. Now, all of Green Bay's wide receivers are going to get opportunities to test that guy, but it is important that Reed will, at least on a small amount of snaps, be counted among that group. But you're wondering, what about Ugo Amadi? Well, among 37 NFL slot defensive backs with at least 150 slot coverage snaps, Ugo Amadi, 34th in PFF coverage grade, 37th in targeted rate, 29th in catch rate allowed, 23rd in forced to completion rate, 37th in yards allowed per coverage snap, dead last, and 23rd in open target rate. Jaden Reed, we know how efficient he is, and this is why he's been so aggravating as of late, but 17th in target rate, 6th in contested catch rate, 7th in yards per route run, 15th in ADOT, 5th in yards after the catch per reception, 2nd in yards per reception, 4th in explosive pass plays. Extremely talented player. I think he's going to get at least 6 targets in this one, but could see upward, maybe 8 or more. It's just a very, very good matchup, and we have seen, won't bother everybody by reading out each opponent over the last 5 weeks, but what we have seen with Green Bay is that when they spot a cornerback who should be targeted, they do target him, and they have been distributing Jaden Reed's first read target totals against teams who are mid-tier or worse in EPA allowed per play to opposing slot receivers. I go through it in the article, but the teams that they faced in 4 of the last 5 weeks were in the top 10 in EPA allowed per play. So I look at that and I say, okay, he's only earned, I think, 1 target in each one of those. Anyway, I think that they're just going to kind of target Ugo Amadi here. And this is, at the very least, I think that Jaden Reed's a wide receiver 3, but I think we can maybe get squeeze a little bit better productivity out of him.
Yeah, I think this was a good one to highlight because Reed has been typically like somebody that I've been lower on in like man heavy matchups because he has like one of the larger disparities of success from zone versus man. But the Saints are not one of like the good man heavy defenses, right? For all the reasons that you just said, their cornerback core has been poor. They do play man at a top 10 rate, but they have allowed the 2nd most yards per reception, the 4th most yards per coverage snap, 5th most yards per coverage target from man coverage. So if there's going to be a matchup where Reed is able to overcome the man coverage thing, I don't think this is going to be a problem for him. Romeo Doubs as well was another name that I highlighted here that I like quite a bit this week. He has just a 19% target rate versus man coverage, but he ranks inside the top 15 among 118 qualifying wide receivers in fantasy points per route run. So he's had a lot of success on the targets that he's gotten against man coverage. So he's another one that I like quite a bit for Green Bay this week against this cornerback group for the Saints.
Cool.
And then the last name on the players to target for you this week, you got the rookie Jalen McMillan of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, he's facing Dallas Cowboys fill-in starter Amani Oruwariye. Since losing Trevon Diggs to a season-ending cartilage meniscus thing, it's not great. I'm kind of worried about him long-term. What they've done is They rotate Amani Oruwariye and Andrew Booth Jr. on the defensive left, with Oruwariye starting. Then on the defensive right, they put Deron Bland there for, I think it was 90.5% of his snaps. He was on the defensive right. Took a couple in the slot, but that might have been because Jordan Lewis, he's pretty banged up. He entered week 15 with a hamstring strain, and then he was forced from play with an elbow injury. Don't know his status currently, but I did put in the guy who should be starting there in his place if he's not available, put his information in here. But basically, they've got Deron Bland and then a whole lot of nothing. Jalen McMillan over the last 2 weeks has taken significant second half of the season strides, the kind of things that we want to see from rookie wide receivers, lining up wide right, 44.2% pre-snap alignment plurality rate in weeks 14 and 15, followed by a 30.5% wide left rate and a 25.3% slot rate. He's going to get opportunities to face all of these guys. We'll take a minority snap share against Deron Bland and not worry about that too much. Over the last 2 weeks, he's 12th in yards per out run, 16th in yards per reception, 7th in explosive pass plays. Meanwhile, Oruwariye, among 97 NFL perimeter cornerbacks with at least 110 perimeter coverage snaps, 85th in PFF coverage rate, 94th in target rate, 97th in catch rate allowed, 95th in forced to completion rate, 96th in yards allowed per coverage snap, 96th allowed, 96th in explosive pass plays allowed rate. I think Jalen McMillan can stay hot this week as a high upside flex play.
Love it. All right, let's go over a couple other players here that I picked out from the wide receiver man zone report. The first one, really, it's Brian Thomas Jr. of the Jacksonville Jaguars, but I mean, he should be a lock for fantasy lineups this week. I really just wanted to highlight him because, you talk about guys that are going to stay hot, coming off a 2-touchdown game last week. He ranks inside the top 20 wide receivers in fantasy points per route run against both coverage types, man and zone, and they're going against the Las Vegas Raiders, who play an average rate of both man and zone coverages, but they rank dead last in team coverage grade from both looks. That is hard to do, but the Raiders have managed to do it. So love Brian Thomas Jr. this week quite a bit. Another name here, the Carolina Panthers wide receiver that I was going to highlight. As much as I wanted to put Jalen Coker here, I put Adam Thielen. So Adam Thielen has been the Panthers' top receiver against zone coverage this season. He leads the team in target rate with 21% against zone, and he ranks 24th among 126 qualifying wide receivers in fantasy points per route run against zone. So this is a good matchup for him to go against the Cardinals, who are top 10 in zone coverage rate this season, but they are 31st in both defensive success rate and first down plus touchdown rate allowed from zone coverage looks. So he's another one that I like a fair bit this week. And then Jacoby Myers as well. So Jacoby Myers of the Raiders, he's earned a solid 25.5% target rate, leads the Raiders in fantasy points per route run against man coverage. And it's more of the matchup on the other side that I like for him going against the Jaguars, because the Jaguars do play man coverage at a top 5 rate, but they're bottom 3 when they're in man coverage in completion rate allowed, defensive success rate, and yards allowed per coverage snap. So they are not a good unit, and Jacoby Myers due for a nicer game here, and I think I like the matchup quite a bit for him. So those are kind of the ones I picked up.
I wanted to write up Jacoby Myers, but when I was doing this, we didn't have info on Aiden O'Connell's availability yet, so I pass over him, but he did practice in full on Wednesday, so I think he should be good to go. Tagging a couple teams on here that I want to talk about. Buffalo Bills, this is pass run funnel report. Buffalo Bills versus New England Patriots, pass and run funnel. I think, we're starting Josh Allen and James Cook, but I think Ray Davis can also have a helpful day here. Among NFL teams in weeks 11 through 15, New England's run defense ranks 26th or worst in EPA allowed per play, average depth of tackle, and yards allowed before contact per rushing attempt. On the pass defense side of things, same time span, 11 through 15. New England's pass defense ranks 28th in EPA allowed per play. 3 things I want to highlight positionally. Its running back coverage unit, wide receiver coverage unit, and tight end coverage unit rank 21st, 29th, and 30th, respectively, among NFL teams in weeks 11 through 15 in yards allowed per coverage snap. All bottom, 12 units? Yeah. So I think all of these guys can have a very efficient day. Second team to highlight here from the pass run funnel report, Detroit Lions at Chicago Bears, pass and run funnel. So this one, there's a lot of moving parts to this matchup. Detroit will be playing outdoors for just the second time this season. I think the first time was 5 weeks or 7 weeks ago. I think it was week 9. So this is the first time they're going to play in cold weather. So looking at what they did last season, maintained a 60.2% pass play rate in games that started with below freezing temperatures from weeks 14 and on in 2023. That ranked 10th among NFL teams playing in qualifying temperatures during that span. So I do expect Detroit to continue throwing the ball, but Chicago is just a bad all-around defense despite having some pretty decent players. They rank 30th among NFL teams in weeks 11 through 15 in EPA allowed per play and dead last in yards allowed per coverage snap and explosive pass plays allowed rate. Meanwhile, Detroit's offense during that same span, passing offense, ranks second in EPA per play. With Dave Montgomery out for the year, Craig Reynolds should take on at least somewhat of a decent rushing workload here. I think we can project him for like 8 carries. But Jahmyr Gibbs probably going to be a season-long winner. The other guys that I want to highlight here for the run game are Jamison Williams and Jared Goff. They're the 3rd and 4th highest graded rushers on this team. I don't think they're going to have big-time high-volume days, but given the matchup, I think that we should expect them to combine for like 3 or 4 rushing attempts, and they should do so efficiently. Among NFL teams in weeks 11 through 15, Chicago's run defense ranks 25th in EPA allowed per play, 26th in yards allowed after contact per rushing attempt, and 31st in average depth of tackle.
Nice. Yeah, that's some good data there. I like it. Let's go to some of our players that we're maybe not as excited about this week. So we'll talk about some wide receiver sits, and we'll stick with the wide receiver cornerback matchup article. Nick, who is the first name that you're fading this week?
Yeah, first name, Seattle Seahawks wide receiver Tyler Lockett. Father Time has really caught up with him, and it is a big old bummer. I project him to face Minnesota Vikings #1 cornerback, or number 2. It's kind of weird how they do these things, but Shaquille Griffin, former teammate. Stephon Gilmore has been out for a couple weeks with a hamstring strain. Nearly returned in week 15. I expect him to suit up this week. He tends to defend the opposition's big-bodied downfield player, whether that be like a downfield X or the Z. So I think Stephon Gilmore, he'll bounce side to side guarding DK Metcalf, which means that Tyler Lockett should spend most of his day against Shaquille Griffin. Lockett, over the last 4 weeks, since Seattle's Week 11 bye, ranks 61st in target rate, 60th in yards per out run, 36th in average depth of tackle, 54th in yards after the catch per reception, 59th in yards per reception, and he has not forced a missed tackle. Meanwhile, Shaq Griffin playing very well in the number 2 role, 20th in targeted rate, 17th in catch rate allowed, 12th in open target rate. 2 schematic things working against Tyler Lockett in this one. The Minnesota Vikings blitz at a 52.3% rate. They are the only team over 50%. They also play a zone-heavy defense. Lockett has earned just 2 targets on 39 team-level blitzed passing attempts since the bye, and he's earned just 1 target against zone coverage during that span. I just don't expect him to be involved at all. He's still a savvy vet who, if defenses totally sell out to stop the other 2, he can make them pay. But I think this matchup in particular just bodes really poorly for Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, I'm with you. And yeah, I was worried that it was going to be bad for all the Seahawks wide receivers if Sam Howell was going to be playing again. But it looks like Geno Smith at least was a full participant in practice on Wednesday. I haven't seen anything from Thursday, but I mean, the Wednesday full practice is definitely good because, yeah, Sam Howell scares the shit out of me for JSN and DK Metcalf. But yeah, Tyler Lockett obviously would be as well. But at least for this one, I'm with you. I think Metcalf and JSN are the top targets still. Let's go to San Francisco next for your next pick. You have Deebo Samuel going against Kendall Fuller of the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah. Deebo Samuel, he's younger than Tyler Lockett, but like the age cliff looks like it has already caught up with him, which is a real big bummer. I'm going to read a number of statistics here, and they are all career lows that Deebo Samuel is producing this season. 20.2% target rate, 1.64 yards per outrun, 61.4% catch rate, 7.3 yards after the catch per reception. He's still pretty good there, but it is a career worst. 2.3 yards after contact per rushing attempt, 2.8 yards per rushing attempt, and just an 8.8% first down and or touchdown conversion rate on the ground. He's been double digits every year in his career. Typically he's like above 20%. So 8.8 is it's a big old bummer. Mm-hmm. As for Kendall Fuller, 18th in targeted rate, 29th in yards allowed per coverage snap. He's a serviceable number 2. Not an elite player, but I think that he's going to just do enough to kind of give this version of Deebo Samuel fits. I believe I also did include, I put he'll face Jalen Ramsey on some of his snaps, probably a minority, but it is worth mentioning. Jalen Ramsey ranks 21st in PFF coverage grade. He's still a very good number 1 cornerback. On the Geno Smith thing you mentioned previously, I'm just calling it right now. I think he dinged up his meniscus, but players typically suit up and play through that. But that's me, not a doctor, giving you my unsolicited opinion. Anyway, Deebo Samuel, it's a rough matchup. And on the team level, Miami is doing a fairly good job against wide receivers. They rank 14th in EPA allowed per play in weeks 11 through 15, covering wide receivers.
Nice. Yeah, it's been hard for Deebo at this point. I mean, he's just fallen down the rankings. I feel like at this point, just each week, it just gets a little bit more frustrating. And obviously the drops, getting out of hand at this point. No pun intended, but
I didn't even include the drop.
Yeah, there's been a struggle there for sure. So doesn't seem to be a major factor here. And I'm with you. I would be looking to other options this week. So how about the final name on the wide receiver cornerback matchup article to players to avoid this week, Nick?
Yeah. Detroit Lions ex-wide receiver Tim Patrick facing Chicago Bears number 1 cornerback Jalen Johnson. So surprisingly, when these teams faced each other in week 13, Jalen Johnson was in shadow coverage on Tim Patrick for 15 of 26 receiving snaps. Tim Patrick did finish with 2 receptions on 3 targets for 48 yards. They were all outside of Jalen Johnson's coverage. He did not permit a single target earned in his coverage. And those when he was covering Tim Patrick, the two receptions for 48 yards were also earned against a backup, Terrell Smith, who was not expected to start this week. He was starting that week. I think it was Kyler Gordon who was out. As for Tim Patrick, he's playing well for compared to what we expected for a guy who's had an ACL tear and an Achilles tendon rupture. Props to him, but 56th in targeted rate, 71st in contested catch rate, 47th in yards per outrun, 60th in explosive pass plays. He can still go do things as a possession receiver, and he'll sort of like Tyler Lockett. I think that he can make a defense pay when they sell out to stop the other guys, but the way that Chicago treated him last time, they put Jalen Johnson in shadow coverage. Again, 15 of 26 snaps, leaving a very small minority of snaps for Tim Patrick to go do things against a backup. I don't think that this is a very good one. And, for the dear listener, Jalen Johnson, 2-time All-Pro, he got paid 1-time All-Pro, but got paid a massive contract. He's a very good lockdown cornerback, effectively dissuades quarterbacks from targeting his coverage at the 5th lowest rate, 9.7% targeted rate. I think this is a pretty rough one for Tim Patrick. I consider him a volatile wide receiver 5.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I got one more sit here outside of the wide receiver man zone stuff. But this one comes from the O-line D-line matchup article, and it's Terry McLaurin of the Washington Commanders. I guess I should be very clear. Like, it's not like a full-on sit. Terry McLaurin has been excellent all season. So this isn't about sitting him, but more about tempering expectations in a difficult matchup. So going against the Philadelphia Eagles this week, the Commanders' offensive line, just a 69.9 pass blocking grade on the year. That ranks 21st. Eagles' defensive line has earned an 85.6 pass rush grade. That is the second best mark in the league. They've generated a 37.1% pressure rate. That ranks 6th. When there is pressure on the play, McLaurin is seeing just an 11.7% target rate. That ranks 3rd on the Commanders, but it ranks 88th among 167 qualifying wide receivers and tight ends who have run at least 50 routes this season. He's made the most of his opportunities this year, like in those situations, because like I said, he's been good, but they've typically been made up of like unstable big plays. He's averaging a pretty high 26.6 yards per reception in those situations. The Eagles, on the other side, are also allowing the fewest fantasy points per game to opposing wide receivers. And the last time that McLaurin faced them, which was week 11, he managed just 1 catch for 10 yards. So I'm not saying it's going to be that bad for McLaurin. Again, they are at home. That helps a little bit. They've been playing very well lately. But I am a little bit concerned about McLaurin, probably considering him more of kind of low end wide receiver 2 / high end wide receiver 3 this week in the difficult matchup.
Yeah, we called this a very long time ago when people kind of like to dunk on the wide receiver cornerback stuff, but Philadelphia has the best cornerback core in the NFL.
Yeah, they're really good. There's no doubt about that. And then actually, I do got a couple quick names here on the wide receiver man zone report. Just a couple names that stood out also to temper expectations for this week, just based on the data. And the first one is DJ Moore of the Chicago Bears. So all of the Bears wide receivers have struggled against man coverage this season, specifically DJ Moore, who owns just a 17% target rate versus man. And he ranks 90th among 118 qualifying wide receivers in fantasy points per route run versus man coverage. He's going against the Lions. He actually had a decent game against the Lions last time. The Lions do play man coverage at the highest rate in the NFL. They rank in the top 10 in first down plus touchdown rate allowed and defensive success rate from those man coverage looks. I know it's a banged up unit, so I'm not completely fading DJ Moore this week, but he is somebody that kind of stood out in the data there as someone to temper expectations for. While the other name that I included was Courtland Sutton of the Denver Broncos. So he's playing tonight. We'll see how this one shakes out, but he ranks just outside the top 60 among 126 qualifying wide receivers in fantasy points per route run versus zone coverage. And the Chargers play zone coverage at a top 5 rate, and they rank as a top 10 zone coverage unit in defensive success rate, first down plus touchdown rate. They've been a very good unit. So just making this a tougher matchup here for the Broncos wide receiver 1, Courtland Sutton. Not somebody that we have to just avoid completely, but just keeping in mind tougher matchups and things like that. If you need tiebreakers and stuff, that would be one that I'd be looking to temper expectations for. All right, we'll move on to the other positions here, but first I want to give a shout out to Fabric by Gerber Life. The new year is a great time to reevaluate financial goals, not just for yourself, but for your kids. Now is the perfect time to make sure your kids are on a path toward a solid financial future. A kid's investment account from Fabric by Gerber Life is quick and simple to set up and lets you invest in their future now for education, big milestones, and more. Fabric by Gerber Life was designed by parents for parents to make it easy to plan for and manage your family's financial path. With the Kids Investment Account from Fabric, you can start investing in your child's future today. Kids can't invest when they're minors, but a Kids Investment Account allows you to invest on their behalf now, giving their investments more time to grow. It's all online, and setting up an account could take you just 5 minutes. Then you can manage your child's account and monitor their investments right from your phone. Funds can be used for nearly anything benefiting your child, from tuition and tutors to music classes. And when they're adults and out on their own, they can use the funds for anything they need. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their family. Start investing in your child today at meetfabric.com/fantasy. That's meetfabric.com/fantasy, meetfabric.com/fantasy. Portfolios managed by Fort Washington Investment Advisors, Inc. Additional services provided by Apex Clearing Corporation. All investing is subject to risk. Learn more at meetfabric.com. Okay, let's go on to the running backs. I've gone to Nate's start sit article here for our starting running backs because these were names that he got the most questions about this week, and he went and ranked them for how he likes them in week 16. And at the top of that list was Rico Dowdle of the Dallas Cowboys, who we talked about last week as well. And he had a nice 100-yard rushing game. He's now gone over 100 rushing yards in 3 straight and is a top 10 running back over that span. He's played over 70% of the snaps in all 3 of the past 3 games as well. it's definitely a tougher matchup for Dowdle this week against the Bucks, which, as Nate points out, probably pushes him outside of the top 12 territory. But because of the volume alone, he should still be kind of considered as a high-end RB2 this week. So how are you feeling about Dowdle? Because we liked him last week and things worked out. Still feeling okay about him even in a tougher matchup?
Yeah, he's just chugging along.
Yeah.
It gets a little bit unsettling to trust, but yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely not a name that we expected to be trusting at this point in the season as like a high-end play for the fantasy semifinals. But like you said, there's volume there, and he's just continuing to perform well. So we trust that, and hopefully he could keep it going for at least a couple more weeks. The other name at the top of Nate's list of most asked about players and ranked second behind Dowdle is Bucky Irving of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So on the other side of that Sunday Night Football matchup, that is, Nate mentions how he was questionable heading into last week's game, but it didn't seem to matter all that much because he still got 15 carries for 117 yards. Dallas is his opponent this week. They were one of the better running back matchups to target early in the year, but they've been much better as of late. So that kind of combined with being like a limited participant in practice this week does make Irving riskier than maybe even Dowdle, but he's also a better running back than Dowdle. He owns a top 10 top 10 rushing grade on the year. And Nate finishes off by noting that he, like Dowdle, would likely have top 10 running back potential in a better matchup, but he's also more in that kind of RB2 range, probably closer to the middle. So just behind Dowdle this week. All right. And you actually have one more from the Run Funnel report here, Nick. What did you like about the Arizona offense's opportunity here against Carolina?
Yeah. So they're playing the Carolina Panthers run defense or Run Funnel. Excuse me. We've talked about this one quite a bit. They with Derek Brown and others out, it's just a unit to routinely target among NFL teams in weeks 11 through 15. Carolina's run defense ties for 26th in missed tackles missed tackles, and ranks dead last in average of the tackle, yards allowed before contact per rushing attempt, and EPA allowed per play. The thing to know here is Amari DiMercato, now on injured reserve. Trey Benson, banged up. Does not look like he's going to play. You need to monitor the injury report, but I think we'll get another helping of what we saw last week, which was James Conner leading the way on the ground, playing 100% of the 2-minute drill, and splitting third and fourth and long duties with DJ Dallas. If you need desperately a guy to fill in, DJ Dallas could be up for consideration. I do not think he will be a high-scoring player, but he will be out there on passing downs. Maybe in a PPR league, he can get you like 8 points. James Conner, though, rip-roaring RB1 here. This should be a whole lot of fun for him.
Nice. Yeah, looking forward to that. All right, a couple names on the running back sit side of things. So I put Tony Pollard of the Tennessee Titans. This hurts me because I like Tony Pollard, right? And he's not only dealing with injuries right now, but there's also a chance that, with the Titans season done and as a result of Pollard being kind of banged up, there's a chance that the Titans rely a little more on Tajay Spears here going forward. And then you look at the matchup in the trenches as well. Like the Titans offense, they're generating just 0.9 rushing yards before contact per attempt. That ranks 30th. They've earned a 48.2 run blocking grade. That also ranks 30th. They're going up against the Colts. Their defensive line has allowed 1.1 rushing yards before contact. That's the 8th best mark in the league. 61.4 run defense grade is also the 8th best mark for a defensive line unit. So kind of considering the matchup here, when contacted 2 or fewer yards before contact per attempt, Tony Pollard is managing just a 14.8% first down plus touchdown rate. That's a below average mark for the position. 54.7 rushing grade in those situations, ranks 37th among 55 qualifying running backs. So the Colts, they typically have been a good matchup for running backs. I think just for me, more so than anything, is the concern with Pollard maybe taking on a little lighter of a workload, and then this disadvantage in the trenches specifically, pushing him to being outside, I'd say probably the top 20 fantasy running backs this week.
Yeah, they've had him play through injuries. He got in one limited practice last week, and that was it. I'm not really sure why they kind of forced that guy to go out there. I share your concern with him. I think Tyjae Spears could be quietly a big time beneficiary. There are also a couple other guys. I'm writing this up elsewhere. Tyler Boyd continues to play through a foot injury, which just means he's getting good exercise out there. And then Nick Westbrook-Ikhine also showed up as a DNP with an ankle injury. So the pass catching core could be significantly condensed with potentially a more stable quarterback situation. And I referenced the pass catching core specifically because Tyjae Spears is a great passing down back that, missing ligaments and cartilage excluded. I don't even know if I suspect Tony Pollard will not play, but if he does, I'm very concerned.
Okay. Yeah. So there you go. Yeah. It's definitely reason for concern there. So one of the other names that we put on here, actually another one from Nate's list, and one that he wasn't feeling as good about among like kind of his most asked about running backs, and that was Isaiah Pacheco of the Kansas City Chiefs. So Nate notes that Pacheco and Kareem Hunt were basically a 50-50 split in snaps and touches in week 15, even though Pacheco's overall playing time did increase from his first game back. Essentially how the usage shook out in week 15 was that Pacheco was kind of the clear lead back in the first half, while Hunt was actually the primary running back in the second half. So they're facing the Texans on Saturday, who have been really good against running backs this season. 4 of their past 5 opponents were held to just 3.7 yards per carry or less, including the Detroit Lions duo of Sonic and Knuckles over there. So we should still prefer Isaiah Pacheco over Kareem Hunt, Nate notes, but this could be a situation where they're both kind of splitting time and carries again, also in a tougher matchup. So I know Nate has Pacheco in more of that kind of RB3 range this week. Okay, let's go to a couple miscellaneous names here, Nick, from our waiver wire question marks. Where do you want to start with either one of these two names, whichever one you prefer?
Let's start with Brenton Strange, who has been I think kind of a revelation. He was a good prospect. He was a second round pick. He unfortunately was drafted onto a team with Evan Ingram, but he is playing very well. I think we should highlight that he may have a little AC joint issue. He's on the injury report listed as shoulder. It doesn't sound like it's a grade 3 like they friggin' rolled Trevor Lawrence out there with, where you could see this thing, his clavicle detached from his shoulder through his sweatshirt. Doesn't sound like it's like that, but they seem to go, hey, AC joint sprain, get out there, buddy. So I think he'll play. It's probably like a grade 1. He seemingly has earned, he's doing the same thing with Mac Jones that he was with Trevor Lawrence, though. Yeah. He's playing very efficiently. He's earning targets efficiently. To me, he's just a streaming tight end 1, and I think that he can. I think he can go out there, and I think he can return value. Maybe doesn't have the same sort of unbelievable upside that some of these other guys do, but we like picking on the Las Vegas Raiders. So I think their starting strong safety has been on injured reserve all year long. So he should have a little bit easier time in the coverage department. One of their cornerbacks, I don't remember if it was Jacorian Bennett or Nate Hobbs, but both of them have been banged up. One of them was also added to injured reserve. It's just a softer defense, and Antonio Pierce, I think, is kind of he's probably a really nice guy. I think he's being shown that he's maybe not quite ready for this role yet. That's really rude, and I feel badly about saying that. But I think that Brenton Strange can go out. I think he's like the tight. Well, I don't know where you rank. I think I'll probably rank him as like the tight end 6.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he has that potential to be in that top 12 range again this week. I think he's worth a start. I wrote about him in the O-line D-line matchup article this week. So just to go over some of the kind of highlights from that piece, the Jaguars offensive line, they've been right around average in pass blocking grade, 71.7, but they've done a nice job preventing pressure. They rank as the 4th best unit in the league in pressure rate allowed. And now you're looking at the Raiders defensive line, who are without Max Crosby for the rest of the year. They rank 27th in pass rush grade and 26th in pressure rate. Now, in games without Evan Ingram, Brenton Strange is earning a top 10 target rate for the position when his quarterback is kept clean. In those 5 games, Strange has also finished as a top 10 PPR tight end in 4 of the 5, and as recently as the tight end PPR tight end 2 in his most recent appearance. Raiders also allowing the 4th most fantasy points per game to opposing tight ends. Our strength of schedule tool has this as the best matchup for tight ends. I'm with you. I think Strange's potential top 12, maybe even higher play this week for tight ends.
For this next guy here, this is kind of brutal. So there is an audio update from New Orleans Football out on Alvin Kamara's injury status, but it just came out, and so we are unable to listen to it on the show. But as fantasy managers surely know, Alvin Kamara is dealing with a groin strain. The New Orleans Saints are playing on Monday night. Kendre Miller, free of underwhelming coach Dennis Allen, is now a member of the New Orleans Saints offense. And so we're tasked with telling fantasy managers what it is they should do with Kendre Miller. And I sympathize terribly here because I am somebody who has picked up Kendre Miller. I've got him stashed on the bench, trying to figure out whether I should be starting him over a player like Tyrone Tracy or Tony Pollard. I'm inclined to do so, but the Packers' run defense, they rank inside the top 12 in EPA per play. They just barely make the cut in run defense, that is. A couple things to note here, though. I believe Quay Walker he's injured, and it's unclear to me if he is. Do you know what is he out for the year?
He was considered week to week, so I think he's unlikely at best for this week.
Okay. So, okay, cool. So Quay Walker, the Packers, all of their linebackers are these little speedy guys. They're all like 230 or 225 or something like that. I think Quay Walker, he's the only guy. He's 240. He's the heaviest starter. So this could be a matchup where, given all of the unbelievable amount of injuries on the New Orleans Saints offense, they could opt for a fairly run-heavy approach. I don't know what Nick Underhill is telling the people, and so I advise everybody to go check out the latest update from New Orleans Football. But I think Kendre Miller, it's tough because they play Monday night. I think that he is like on the RB2 borderline. Even if Alvin Kamara is active, it would make perfect sense for them to continue to audition Kendre Miller. This is a guy who has not played very many snaps because of he had surgery on an MCL, and then he's had recurring hamstring injuries, which I guess maybe I'm making the case for shutting him down. But I think that they need to know what they have in the guy. So I think he's right on the RB2/3 border, even if we think Alvin Kamara is going to play. If Alvin Kamara is not going to play, I think you're just shoving Kendre Miller in there and letting the chips fall where they may. John, where are you on Kendre Miller?
Yeah, I think so. I'm with you. Like, without knowing exactly what the status is of Kamara, like it does feel like them like adding Clyde Edwards-Helaire this week is probably a sign that Kamara isn't going to play. So I'm with you. I'd be looking for ways to get Kendre Miller in my lineup, probably treating him more as a flex option quite a bit, or that low end RB2, RB3 range, right? Assuming Kamara can't go. I do think this is an offense that is going to rely heavily on their running backs again this week, specifically Kendre Miller. We talked about him in the waiver wire show as well, how there's just so much opportunity here for him. If Alvin Kamara is out, Alvin Kamara getting a ton of touches. That offense is very, very reliant on him, especially with Taysom Hill out of the lineup as well. Like, they're very quickly running out of options on offense. Chris Olave, another one. So yeah, Rashid Shaheed, there's just so much gone from that offense, including their quarterback too, that I feel like the offense has to run through Kendre Miller if Alvin Kamara is out this week. So I'd like him quite a bit, and I would try to be starting him where I could. So that is our players. Let's go to our units, the defensive special team units. How are you feeling about the other side of the Kendre Miller matchup, the Green Bay Packers going against the Saints offense?
Yeah, so there's suspicion, I guess, that Derek Carr is like trying to play with the fractured left wrist. I am skeptical that this is going to be the case, but right now I think that Spencer Rattler is going to be the guy under center here. So I like Green Bay Packers defense/special teams against the New Orleans Saints. Rattler, 58th in PFF passing grade, 40th in big time throw rate, 33rd turnover worthy play rate, 39th in yards per passing attempt, 41st in completion rate, and 20th in average time throw. I guess at least he's getting the ball out relatively quickly. And by that, I mean bottom half of the starter pool. Green Bay's pass defense, meanwhile, 11th in yards allowed per coverage snap, 9th in EPA allowed per play. And quarterback pressure rate, 6th in explosive pass play rate, and 1st overall in NFL sacks among NFL teams in weeks 11 through 15. Sacks are a little bit variable or variant, but I think we can just count on them kind of getting the job done there. Spencer Rattler, 40th in pressure to sack rate among 43 NFL quarterbacks with at least 35 pressured drop backs. The other unit that I wrote up was the Houston Texans defense versus the Kansas City Chiefs, with the expectation that Kansas City would bench Mahomes with the rough-looking high ankle sprain. They play on Saturday, and then they play again next Wednesday. So my expectation was that they would rest him and allow him to play on Christmas Day. It appears as though I will have been wrong, because I guess they are. Patrick Mahomes is practicing in full, which is kind of wild. But for those curious, Houston's pass defense ranks 11th in pass rush win rate, 10th in yards allowed per coverage snap, 5th in explosive pass plays allowed rate, 4th in catch rate allowed, 3rd in NFL sacks, and 2nd in EPA allowed per play. Against Carson Wentz, I think you can start them. Against Patrick Mahomes, I would not. I think that they're going to, either way, they're going to run the ball a lot. Maybe that means Isaiah Pacheco can kind of get the job done. I understand that there's some variance there. I expect the running backs to touch the ball pretty frequently here, no matter who is under center. But I do not recommend this unit if Patrick Mahomes is playing.
I think that's fair. Yep. I'm surprised that he's ready to go as well. It seems with the full practice on Wednesday, not even being limited, which was bizarre. So yeah, I mean, if he's going to go, obviously that changes quite a bit. So yeah, that is going to do it for us today. Thank you all for tuning in. As always, if you've enjoyed the show, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already, or leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It does help us a ton. Nic, big thank you to you as well for doing this with me every week. And before you do go, please remind everybody what you have up on pff.com this week.
Yep, QB defense streamers on Tuesday, pass run funnel report Wednesday, wide receiver cornerback matchups to target and avoid on Thursday. Next week, everything will be published. Might be ahead of schedule, but everything will be out there for those in championship week.
Nice. As for me, wrote up the wide receiver man zone coverage report. That's out actually now. O-line D-line matchup article will be out on Friday. IDP rankings, IDP fantasy report, those are already out. And of course, Nate's rankings, his start sit article, and the recap articles will be out there as well. Because of the holiday schedule, this is actually going to be our final start sit show of the year. So I apologize for any inconvenience there. But if you do have questions, I would suggest joining the free PFF Discord, where Nathan Yonke will be more active next week to make up for the lighter fantasy content schedule around the holidays. So good luck to everybody in round 2 of the fantasy playoffs. You're so close to the fantasy finals at this point. So get those lineups set, and we'll see you again next time. And until then, peace out.